Okay, so starting a little late. Sorry about that. Um, so we're going to bring up the Maamar rolling. We're doing this slow. Actually, the second Maamar I realized we learned last year. So we'll see what Maamar we're going to learn before Rosh Hashanah. We're holding Dalet. So the Rebbe says like this. We're talking about the Melech Masada and the idea of that there's this Iris Milmaila that comes from above that inspires a person to go out, but the person has to do the void. The void is on the person. So therefore, now the Rebbe asks, based on this, if the void is the person, and the main response comes from is Rosh Hashanah, is when the king comes to the palace. That's the Sirus of the Leila. So v'tzarech l'havim, we have to understand. That there's a revelation which we call, which is 13 attributes, and it's an empowerment of a person to go and greet the king. And that is still not just to certain individuals, but to every individual. So what's important in the example is that when the king is in the field, like we added, that you can and you're enabled, whoever wants to go greet him. All right, the king's in the field, and everyone has the right and ability. Means you have the ability. You shouldn't think it's beyond your abilities. It's only for someone else's. That's the point. The king's in the field. Go greet him. God's in the field. Go meet him. So the Rebbe asks the question, why would the Alter Rebbe add in that example, how the king greets them? That when we go to the king greets you with a happy face. Panim Yafis literally means a delight face. Umara, and he shows them every individual, meaning Panim Sheichakas Lekulam, a radiant face, a happy face. So he accepts you right, he radiates towards you right. Befrat specifically, why is that important part of the example? Befrat specifically, the idea that God accepts, the king receives them, means you go over to the king, he receives you with a delightful face, and shows them a radiant face. That's a response. You went to meet him, now he gives you a response. How does he greet you? When you go to meet him, that's already the Vidoi. That comes after the avoda. And the whole point of El is that the LeDodi, and the God makes himself available by the king being in the field, and therefore Rishayim V'Chayim, you can go meet him. But the response to Hashem, that Hashem gives to us, that's already Vidoi. That's not part of the example of Melech B'Sada. Why is that added in this example? And again, it's not just that the Alter Rebbe, of course, every word the Alter Rebbe says is measured, especially when he's trying to give an example about an idea like Elul, he wouldn't be adding something that's not necessary. Not just not necessary, seemingly it's nothing to do with Elul, that's after Elul. The idea of how he greets us with the delightful, radiant faces is after you've done the avodah, which means to go meet the king. So therefore it's not understood. Traditionally, how the king greets, the response is the 10 days of Teshuvah, including Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. What we're talking about the king in the field, which is Elul, that's about Elul. That's empowerment by the king being in the field, gives us the ability for us to do that avodah. That means the king is in the field, so then we do that avodah, greeting him. How he responds to our greeting him is already not Elul. That's already 10 days of Teshuvah. The last 30 days of the 40 days of Moshe being up in the mountain. Another question we have to understand. Why does he divide them in two different ways? The king receives and responds to our approach to him. A delightful face. And also, first of all, he receives. When he receives them. How is he when he receives them in the office with a delightful face? Mara means is an expression of engagement. He's showing them Panim Shechakas, a delightful face. When talking about how he receives them, he uses Yafas, delightful or beautiful. When he shows them Srechakas radio. So what does this mean? Why is this part of the example? So the Rebbe is basically breaking up 3 points here. Number one is what's this have to do with Elul? How he receives that's already 10 days of truth. Why, when he's makabel, see, when it seems like this, like really pulling teeth, but the Rebbe is going to explain the answer. To understand the question, it's to see the answer. But we have but just he's makabel, he receives them with a delightful face. So the question is, what's the idea of receiving and showing? Delightful with receiving and radiant with showing. So the idea is like this. The Rebbe wants to explain. The Rebbe you have to remember something. The Alter Rebbe is explaining an initial question of what is Elul. How do we understand Elul? It's not a holiday. Usually the Alter Rebbe starts off the Maamar with a question that if there's this revelation of 13 attributes, then the whole month of Elul should be a holiday. Whenever there's the 13 attributes, that's Moedim with Simcha, that's a time of Moed, that's a Yom Tov is connected to Giluim, there's a revelation. So the answer we answered is it's not a revelation like a typical revelation of a holiday. It's a Mesinas Koyach, it's an empowerment for you to do something. Elul is about you doing, it's about avoid the person doing. So what is the idea? The idea is how do we get a person triggered to do something? Is the person has to know, and the Mesinas Koyach is, and where the king is at this moment. That the king is in the field means there's tremendous compassion, and the literal idea of what compassion means. What's compassion? Compassion. You have to remember this. There's 3 basic ideas: there's din, rachmim, and chesed. Chesed is kindness. Means it's not important about the person. I need to give. A person needs to give, that's kindness. If you pay someone their salary, you're not being a kind boss. So you have to do, that's din. That's the judgment. Din and machusa, right? Someone works for you, you have an agreement, you pay them $10 an hour, you pay them. Gvura is to the letter of the law. What you deserve is what you get. If you're deserving, you get. You're not deserving, you don't get. Chesed is the total opposite. It's nothing to do about you. I want to give. Just type this out. No, if the person didn't have any kind of delight in you, he wouldn't be giving you. But there's no real avodah. And there's no real interaction about the person. It's about the time said no is I like you, so I want to give you. Rachman is in between. It's also Rachman is really leaning more towards din. That's why he says that Hashem wanted to make the world b'midas hadin with the attribute of judgment. Shitif imay, he joined with din Rachman. It's a whole new idea. Why? He joined compassion. Compassion has a very clear picture about where the person's at. That's the definition of compassion. You recognize a person's situation, therefore you feel compassion. But instead of saying, well, that's the way it is, that's the way the world runs, plus 1 equals 2, there's judgment, there's reward and punishment. Rachman acknowledges the problem, acknowledges the situation, and nevertheless has compassion, which is, of course, very important to the idea of the 13 attributes of mercy. And that's why kapara, atonement, teshuvah comes from Rachman, recognizing our situation and nevertheless having compassion, because understanding it from whether it's the point of the bigger picture, realizing people are not perfect. When God created the world, He shittif maybe this Rachman. What's the Alter Rebbe saying, Tanya? What is the compassion? Miracles, tzaddikim, things that would help a person in this dry world to get through life, and it shouldn't just be so dry and mechanical. There's a miracle every once in a while, all the time, really. There's tzaddikim there that lift you out of your space, help you glide an inch above the ground. So what we here we're saying is that the Rebbe asked, what is really the 13 attributes of mercy? No, what does this mean? What is the 13 attributes of Elul versus other rachamim or other situations? Or different than Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, specifically, is Mishnah and Yonim. There's the difference of the 13 attributes, the way they are in Elul, which we said is compassion that gives the person the courage and then empowerment to go do Teshuvah and to go return and go approach the king, is in 2 things. One is, the Alter Rebbe says an example, like in a regular king's situation. to be a person that could go and greet the king in his royal setting, i.e. his palace and in his garb and everything. You have to be mufcharim shaba'am, the chosen few, and even in the chosen few, Yechid someone of uniqueness. Now, how the Rebbe answers at the end is that it's the proper avoid of Elul. You become one of those people. But in order to be, you can't just walk in, you're not a chosen person. What makes you, how can you go to the palace? Imagine you just want to go, I want to go meet the king. You can't just go meet the king. You have to have an appointment. So the difference, for one difference in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Elul is that at Rosh Hashanah and Kippur require you have to be from the chosen few and someone special. Whereas Elul, you just have to go meet the king. You have to do something. You just have to meet the king. He's accessible to all. The Benimshal, what does this mean in the parable? I accept God as my king. He's in the field. I accept my king. Anyone can accept God as his or her king. That's one difference. The second difference is that it's even a person of Elul, that there's a revelation not just for the person who's in the field to go and approach the king. There's even a revelation for the person in the desert to look of the opposite, means the dangerous desert that he describes in Eikav, of Akrov and Nachash and Saraf, all the scorpions and all the danger of the desert, the place that's loy adam, not for people. Even that person gets inspired to leave the desert and go into the field. The primary idea of the revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy in Elul, when he says Koyach ala Teshuvah, is about the Teshuvah, not just to go become chubs with the king, buddy with the king, but to return to the king. And the Teshuvah Kibshuta, and what is the simple sense of Teshuvah? Hi alan yanim bilti ritzuyim, situations that are not positive, meaning that the desert of your life. Be'ikar haTeshuvah hu aprikasol, and what is fundamentally at the core, especially if a person who knows better is not accepting upon himself the yoke, to refusing to accept God as your king, to tell you how you should do things or shouldn't do things. Where you see that Elul has two things. One is that everyone has access. You don't have to be Mukhar Shabiyam. Not only that the revelation is shining even to the person that's the most distant from God. Not just the person who's never had a relationship, but even the person who threw off the relationship. This is the Alter Rebbe says, Shagili de Elul. So why does God only come to the field? Why doesn't he go to the desert? The God doesn't come to the desert itself. God's not going to go meet you in the place of your moment of desert. Meaning to say, what does that mean? He's not living in the desert. You're not going to find God in the desert experience itself. He's going to be in the field for the person that is in the desert experience, the moment, the situation, the time, your whole time, to leave that time and go into this to feel the meet the king. In practical sense, you're not going to find God in the negativity itself. The negativity could lead you to God. Because you can't have godliness in that space itself. It's like saying you're going to find God in the cheeseburger. Eating a cheeseburger could lead you to go find God, but you're not going to find God in the cheeseburger. And this is a big yesod that the Rebbe taught us over the years of not compromising for Yiddishkeit. The person's going to say, I'll take down the machitza, I'll use a microphone, I'm going to compromise Yiddishkeit, so the person's going to feel a comfortableness, and eventually they'll leave that setting and go to a proper setting. But we'll break the law, so it's not scary for the person. No, God doesn't go to the field, to the desert. He goes to the field, he'll be very accessible. It's going to be relaxed. No one's going to ask you where your black shirt, your black pants is, your white shirt, where your hat is. That's all fine. You could be wearing your shorts. That's all fine. But certain rules, halacha, no one's going to compromise that. Even if you're most distant. This is what the Rebbe says. The Alter Rebbe says, like we say, yeah. But the Jewish people that are in the midbar, they could leave the midbar. They're going to get revelation, a spark to leave the midbar. The revelation of Elul gives them the strength to leave the desert, the sada to go to the field to meet the king, and then eventually be able to go to the palace. Shehamelech mekabel maskulim b'sever parim yafis. So this, what does it mean that the king receives everyone with a delightful face? The point is, shemadgish es kulam, everyone. He shegam eila shem rak reitzim l'hakbos b'nei melech el Hashem shivuyim b'dei Yisrael. You have the people that are wanting to greet the king, but they feel like the Yetzer Hara is holding on to them. They feel captive. They can't. Like this week's parsha, v'shavisa shivya is v'gam kishimis oirim etzlam ratzis teshuvah. And even if they want to do true, the kablem ol machus to accept king the ol machus shemayim. Ein zeh bo b'par. They can't do it. They feel trapped in their situation. Gam oisim hu makabel same parim yafis. He gives them a delightful face. Zeh ma'or etzlam ratzis l'chazik v'takiv l'hakbos b'nei melech. So here the Rebbe turns the answer around. That the Makabel, the Psever Panim Yafis, is the person who wants to do Teshuvah, wants to go, but can't get out of the grip of the Yetzer Hara. So by receiving them with a delightful face, that itself gives the koyach of the person to rip off the grip of the Yetzer Hara. So it's part of his oiderus and sinus koyach. That's why it's in Mashal. Because it's part of the ability for the person to do Elul properly. It's not a response to Elul. It's helping the person do Elul. And through this desire that's created from the delightful receiving of them, they're able to do El properly. I'll do the next one. Moisif, the Rebbe adds. So that's receiving with a delightful face. What's Maamar Panim Shechakas L'Kol? He shows them a radiant face. What's the difference? That he receives them with a delightful face or shows them a radiant face? When you say I receive someone, the person already is a person, but you're receiving them. Like for instance, a vessel receives an entity, receives it. It exists, now it receives it. When Makabel receives the thing. What does it mean to show radiant face? It's the radiant face. God's radiant face that He has. He shows it to the next person. After He says He receives them with a delightful face. His radiant face He shows to them. The idea that He accepts them with their delightful face is this, that they want to receive the king and they're just trapped. He receives that rotzen, and with him giving a delightful face, it gives them the ability to throw off the hold of the Yetzer Hara. So then they can go with their want. He adds that the amount of Shechek is to show His radiant face. When the person has the desire to actually do the Teshuvah, he shows them the radiant face that he has already. Timing, he shows them the joy, the joy of the king himself, meaning to say, not just empowerment to do it, but when they actually do it, he shows them how joyful this struggle that the person had to get to the king. He shows, you want to know where's my delight? My delight was that you were able to do the journey, go leave the desert, rip off the Yetzer Hara, take the empowerment of El, take the empowerment of the receiving of the Parim Yafis that helps build the Ratzin. He shows that this whole journey, it's not just that you came to the king, but how you came to the king, what it took, what effort it took to the king. That's the real timing. He's showing the timing he has in Avodas Teshuvah. The timing is the timing the Parim Yafis. The Parim Yafis is part of the ingredient to help you do to greet the king. The Parim Shechakas shows, you did it. Showing the Teshuvah, real joy is in the essence of pleasure. The essential pleasure that's not made up of components. Which obviously you have things that create a pleasure and you have an essential pleasure. God shows, you know what? God shows that the greatest love that I ever had is you. Before anything, without avodah. Because when you come back to the king, He's showing, once you've done all that effort, He's showing, You know what? There's nothing else I loved but you the whole time. It's not, and it's beyond even the work of why. There's no why I love you. It's not only because of the journey. He's showing the essential love he has for the Jewish people. So really, the part of the office is kind of the delightful face is encouragement to help you finish that void of that's the Teshuvah. The radiant face is that he's showing you that he always loved you beyond any reason. It wasn't is even beyond the because. It's deeper than I said before. It's the param shechekes they had the Jewish people b'chlal. It's greater than what you've done because you've served God. But who you are. Even greater than if the Teshuvah for not serving God. This essential pleasure that God has in the Jewish people is in the essence of God. When he shows that to us, it's revealed to the person that wants to do Teshuvah. Then you realize there's nothing else I love but besides God. The true pleasure I have is only in God. And that's not a made-up pleasure, it's the essence of my pleasure. And that gives you more strength to push off any kind of obstacles and to reach the highest level of Teshuvah. I'll stop over here. The Hashem will pick up next class.